for the healing of everybody who participates, just by engaging in something that matters to each person.
So you're in Norwich and you
Yep.
have a number of people. How many people do you serve?
It depends during the time of year, but between 40 and 60 active people during the course of a year. We don't have that many at any one given event, but people come to different events during the course of the week.
That's quite a bit. I mean, it's quite a few people that you're servicing. And when you're talking about reaching out to people, especially during COVID-19, and people who have been diagnosed with some kind of mental health issue or concern, isolation is kind of paramount, I think. Tell me about that. What happens as a result of the social isolation?
Yeah, so there's a way that we were uniquely suited for this time because part of our mission has been to reduce social isolation. Technically, part of our funding is to provide psychosocial rehabilitation, and reducing social isolation is on the list of outcome measures, which is important to a nonprofit. But what we know is that when somebody experiences a mental health issue, it can tank their self-esteem, and it can encourage people to isolate alone. So
sometimes they feel like or act like maybe they're the only one that has this condition or situation where there's probably 1,000 at least.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting right now. I find that the people who have experienced mental illnesses, who have gone through periods of like self-imposed isolation, in some ways are faring better than the general public who are not accustomed to being at home for this length of time. So people who've experienced mental health issues have kind of a built-in movement toward having to work on resilience in this kind of a condition. People with depression have already had to develop coping skills in order to tolerate this kind of situation. So we know how to connect at ArtReach as community and reduce that social isolation, although now we're doing it via Zoom instead of in person.
Well, I have so many questions for you. So if we just talk about some of the coping skills, what are some of the coping skills that you might recommend for somebody who's feeling perhaps anxious or depressed or socially isolated, some of those situations?
Number one, if you're feeling something terrible, change what you're doing. So if you're sitting in the house and you're feeling more and more squirrely, go outside. Just change something simple about where you are and what you're doing. Exercise is huge. Even just walking, it doesn't have to be fancy, but just going outside and walking can change something. And there are studies on depression that walking can be as effective as Prozac for depression. Wow. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. And that applies to everyone. So you don't have to be a person who normally takes an antidepressant to have outside exercise support your emotional wellness.
Okay, so exercise is good. And then there's online meditation classes and yoga.
Yeah. Yes, I'm doing a lot of those. I'm actually, for my own mental health, am doing more creative practices at home and more yoga through Zoom classes. For me personally, I don't do well with the YouTube videos without a live teacher happening at the same time.
Model.
But my local yoga teacher is teaching through Zoom. So we get on the Zoom call and do the same yoga class that I was doing live in the studio. And I kind of love some things about this time because I've been able to take a Qigong class with an old friend who used to be a dance professor at Connecticut College who lives in Colorado now. Wow. And so I've been taking some of her classes because she's teaching online. So now I can take those again, and that's been an absolute delight.
Well, I've gotten so much mileage on my gas tank that I think I got about 6 weeks ago. So it's amazing kind of what happens. You just don't travel, but you can still have all these opportunities and experiences.
Oh, and also the creative things that so music is an important part of ArtReach. We have a music program, and I'm a hobbyist singer-songwriter, but I really love the like mid-range singer-songwriters
Hmm.
who play in the smaller clubs like the Iron Horse in Northampton and Cafe 9 down in New Haven. Um, and a lot of the artists of that size are doing regular weekly Facebook Live concerts. So being able to I've seen more live music in the last 2 months than I have in a really long time. And I'm trying to take people with me by getting together on a Zoom call and doing a screen share so that we
Nice.
can connect and still experience the arts.
So how do you access all of this information, like all of the things that are available right now? How do you know what's happening?
Well, when this first started, when this first started going on, a lot of people were sharing resources, and we started seeing the links to things like the virtual tours of art museums. So we were just getting them in our email and
Nice.
seeing them on Facebook, and we started collecting them. So all of the staff started collecting the links to these events that you could go to, and we made our calendar so that we had 5 days a week of opportunities that people could do um, through Zoom. Like, for example, right now, as we speak, there's a group of ArtReach members with Dick Pape, who's our music director, and they're on a tour, a virtual tour of Rio. It's like riding a motor scooter through Rio.
And that must be
Um,
amazing.
yeah, they've looked at the artwork at the Vatican. They've been to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Um, just done several really good art museums, and what we're curating these links so that we know that there's going to be a rich experience, and whichever staff member is running the event will say it's an art museum. We'll study some facts about the art so that they can serve as a tour guide, and they just jump on Zoom together and do a screen share and then talk together about the art that they're seeing um, and share facts about it. So we're doing things like we're offering that to our program members. All of these things that people can do to take care of themselves. That's what we're doing right now. We're doing,
Nice.
we're doing things like that, like the art museums. We're also doing physical wellness. So Corinne, who's one of our staff people, is doing a yoga and meditation class a couple times a week. Emma's doing a writing group. Emma Pelzer Ray, who's the associate director. Um, we haven't figured out how to do music together in real time yet because of
Hmm.
the latency issues with Zoom.
Hmm.
So we're looking at that, but we're making some sort of a plan for Make Music Day, which is coming up June 21st.
Oh, that's coming up
Uh,
fast.
and then my favorite thing that I've been doing as soon as this happened and we realized we were going to have to work from home, um, I decided to shift gears a little from totally doing creativity to doing some like self-help wellness because I'm working in an arts organization. I'm a nonprofit director, but I'm also a licensed professional counselor. And no one at ArtReach is my therapy client, but um, but I do keep an eye on things
Of
that
course
way.
you do.
So
Right.
I'm facilitating a group of people to participate in a class through Coursera that's called The Science of Well-Being.
Nice.
It's a 10-week class. It was taught by an instructor at Yale, and that curriculum was already developed. You know, the videos are there of her teaching the class, and there are exercises to do in practice, these wellness practices to engage in every day. So I thought, well, there's no time like the present. I usually don't have time in my regular schedule to do things like that, but I decided we were just going to take the time if anyone was interested. And we actually have a really good, solid group of people who are participating fully in that class. So what I'm doing is just a support group to help people with the technology of how Coursera classes work. But then after they've done the lesson for the week, then we talk about the lesson and, just kind of hold each other accountable for the practices just by checking in. What are you working on right now? Gratitude, savoring the moment, um, it, meditation, exercise.
Hmm.
So we got to week 7 of that class, and then the assignment is to pick one of these, they call them rewirements, to pick one of these rewirements and practice it every day for 4 weeks. And this gave me a perfect opportunity to use a tool that I had in place a few years ago when I was doing online creativity coaching. It's a little platform where every day you check in and you say, what did you do today, in the service of your goal? And you get a little check mark by answering the questions. So it's a self-accountability tool, but that you're doing at the same time as a group of people. So it just helps you show up for yourself. And
Nice.
it's been really a positive thing.
Well, good. Well, it sounds like things are really going well for you then.
They
I'm
are.
wondering what the feedback is from some of your members.
They're doing very well. I think they're enjoying what's happening. Of course, like everybody else, they miss being together, rehearsing for our coffee house. We were working on a big music production when COVID-19 showed up and
Uh,
stopped that particular activity in its tracks. And we look forward to being able to do that in person when we can. But the main thing that people needed was simple connection. So we have some of that built into our schedule too. We call it afternoon Zoom tea, so that for, because people's moods are fluctuating, and sometimes everybody's experiencing stress right now, and that manifests differently for every person. So sometimes you just can't go to a class and stay on top of things. Um, so that week, maybe you just come and hang out and say, hey, but it's connection, it's something. And
just
so,
being there and just listening, just being
yeah,
part of the group and being accepted by that group and not being judged by anybody.
absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things that people get at ArtReach is just unconditional acceptance. And we genuinely like each other. I like people.
You're a people
So,
person. There's no doubt about that.
yeah.
Absolutely. And technology, if you have 40 members and people are all over the place and mostly through New London or New London County or mostly through Norwich, but New London County.
Yes, New London County. So we have people in Norwich, in Ledyard, Gales Ferry, Groton, and New London. But
Okay, so technology might have been, well, you already mentioned, you kind of alluded to that, that you had to be
yes,
the tech support for a lot of people to get them
yes.
basically up and running. Tell me about that.
Well, and so that was a real issue at first. So during our first week that we were working from home, the first thing we did was called everybody on the phone to see what access they had to technology. Did they even have Wi-Fi in their home? And some of them did not.
Hmm.
And many of them did not have a laptop that they could get on Zoom with or a device. Some of them had phones that they could access the internet. So some of our folks were okay. But fortunately, right at the same time, we'd been talking to Pfizer about this, and Pfizer donated 20 laptops
Very nice.
to ArtReach. So we were able to fill in the gaps with the members who were not yet connected to the internet. And it was a little learning curve for me
Of
to,
course.
to set up a bunch of PC laptops. But what I did was set them up in a way that the things I knew people would want to use, like Google Chrome to get in their email and
Mm-hmm.
Zoom to get on these meetings. I made sure the apps were already installed because a lot of our folks, they didn't just had not been using technology. So this is a big learning curve if you don't know how to use a mouse yet.
Exactly.
So we set up the computers to be as simple as possible to do the things that people needed to do, and we delivered them to people and talked them through over the phone to get them into the meetings. So now some of the people who I thought were going to have a really hard time are showing up on a very regular basis.
That's great.
And
You must be
yes,
so proud of yourself.
I'm really excited about it because it just opens up the world. There is so much more we can do now. I mean, think about it. Now, when there's a snow day,
There are no more
people
snow
know
days. I
that's
have to tell
right.
you, Becca,
You
no
know,
more.
it's not like nothing's going to happen. We can still connect, and
And do
people know
something at
how.
least, right?
So there's some real opportunity coming out of this time too. It's a difficult time, but it's also a beautiful time for restructuring, for expanding. There's a lot of possibility, and we will keep a lot of the things we're doing now moving into the future.
So you didn't really have any trepidation, if I could paraphrase, or tell me if I'm wrong, with the whole idea of being more like telepractice, teletherapy, um, communication, that you just kind of hit the ground running. Is
Oh,
that?
we did. We by the second week, we did a lot of planning in the first week and just connecting with people on the phone. But by the second week, we had a calendar out with 5-day-a-week activities.
That's wonderful. That's
So we did not stop. And it's been pretty interesting. The one part that's been difficult is that so much of what people see of ArtReach and the Second Step Players, our theater troupe, has been our public performances, like our big coffee house or like our touring troupe that goes out and tours educational comedy. And those things right now are not happening. But the reality of ArtReach that people do not see and sometimes don't know is that this social connection and the smaller things that happen every day, that's the fabric upon which all those other flashy things are built. The flashy things are icing on the cake, but the cake was intact.
nice, nice.
So
Are you going to have an opportunity for a virtual big show, or are you just waiting for the cities to open up a little bit? What are you thinking about that?
I think we probably will have something virtual before everything opens back up, especially with performing arts. It's going to be a little tough moving forward because people are sitting close together in theaters, and I'm not sure what that's going to look like. I've been on a lot of planning calls where people are discussing options about these issues of being close together in a performing venue. But we're looking at the things that we could be doing online, both with theater and with music. And it probably will take the form to begin with of people doing, a song from their own home, like an interview style show where we get someone on and talk to them a little and they play a couple of songs, something like that.
Yeah, it'd be fun to think about how to
Oh
do
yeah.
it and how to make it all. Yeah, yeah.
There are benefits. There are benefits to working in a nonprofit right now.
Mhm.
Nonprofits are tough to work in, but the thing, because you're always having to scrap for every dime, and you're in
Everything.
survival mode all the time. But hey, you're in survival mode all the time. We're used to that. This is not new to us. We're
Mhm.
we're used to having to problem solve on a daily basis, and so that's just part of how things work. And because we're all of our staff are creatives of one sort or another, we're used to thinking outside of the box.
Well, problem solving is just your nature, and I think that's what creativity is all about, that you just can look at whatever the problem is, and it's just like, okay, so there's 5 different ways to solve this problem or to move ahead
Right.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving ahead to the future, how do you think things are going to look? What do you anticipate? More of the same, or what do you think?
Well, I think some of these things that we're doing now will continue. Um, I'm hoping that we can continue to do all the wellness things that we've built in because we've been doing more of those things. Instead of just encouraging people to do those on their own, we've been offering them ourselves because it's something we can do while we can't do what we would normally be doing, the rehearsals. I anticipate having a Facebook Live interview style show with people doing music from wherever they are.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that's going to take a little bit of tech setup between the two of us because it can be takes a little bit of work to get music to sound good
Hmm.
through Zoom or Facebook Live. But as you see from these concerts, some people really get that right. It takes some practice though to get all your settings right. Um, but still, once we help people get their settings right, think of what they can do. They can do tons of stuff on their own. We also have stand-up comedy, and that will be easier, I think, for us to do virtually because it's one person at a time. Multiple person theater is very difficult because of the like noise gate thing that happens when two people speak at once on a Zoom call. It's going to pick the louder person's voice and cut the other person off.
Hmm.
So theater that has overlapping dialogue, not happening. Not right now. I don't know whether the technology will catch up with that or
Or
not.
maybe we just learn to take turns.
Or maybe we learn to take turns, but That's not real effective in a lot of plays because overlapping dialogue happens.
Yeah.
Um, well, that'll be interesting to see, right? What happens? Maybe people will learn to listen more and make more space. Maybe that will be a byproduct of all this.
Who knows, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hard to say.
How are your clients doing? How are the members doing as far as all the emotional? We've already alluded to it, but it's just such an uncertain time. Do you just tell them don't watch the news or for 10 minutes, or how does that all work?
A lot of our folks don't watch the news a lot anyway, because they're already having to manage depression and anxiety, and without having a crisis. There's a little bit of a weird phenomena that some people who experience a lot of anxiety are experiencing less anxiety right now because there's a reason for it. There, the outside environment matches the anxiety, so it's not just free floating. It's actually like, okay, there's actually something going on. This makes sense. I'm okay.
There's a reason for it,
Yeah.
right? Well, and
Um,
if you become like a social activist too, it almost seems like you're doing something about it. And
yeah.
you're like, if you know that people are hungry and if you make peanut butter sandwiches for them, then you feel like at least you're doing something
Yeah.
and not just worrying about it.
Yeah. I'm talking people through a lot of mindfulness skills
Mm,
because the question that comes up is, when is this going to be over? And we don't know. I mean, there's uncertainty. You have to have a way to manage the uncertainty right now. So the be here now, it's like, what's going on right now?
right,
Right now, I'm talking to Cate.
right. Just be mindful. Yeah,
That's what's
yeah,
happening right now.
yeah.
So, there are a ton of things online that are mindfulness classes and meditations that you would normally have to pay for, that people have made free
That's
during
really
this
nice.
time.
Very
It's
generous.
very nice because most of our folks are low income. And I love that right now they have access to good teachers if they want them. So we're just sharing resources as often as we can and telling people, like, this is, if you're interested in this, this is who might be good to work with. And
Mhm.
that's
So
been
are some of these things available on your ArtReach website? Not so much.
we're about to do a big website rebuild.
Uh-huh.
So the things that are available on the ArtReach website right now, um, people who you can see what we're doing. I mean, there's a calendar, so people can
Nice.
look at what we're doing. And there's an announcement on the front page, but we haven't put these links on the website. I mean, the truth is, I'm the webmaster.
You've got too much. You
Yeah,
have
I
too many
do. I
tattoos
do.
that
And
you're
so
wearing. Yeah,
if and I've been busy doing things like applying for a payroll protection
of
program, like
course.
trying to make sure that the agency still runs and that I can take care of both my staff and my program members.
Of course.
So yeah, there's some things have just slipped through the cracks. Like I did at least manage to get an announcement on their website about what's going on right now.
Well,
Uh,
good.
and
Really big.
and we have, through the Connecticut Office of the Arts, we have gotten an intern who will be
Nice.
working with us virtually beginning next week
Oh,
to build
congratulations.
the website. So our focus will be moving to the website beginning next week. And it'll take, I'm sure, several weeks for us to assess it and decide what we're going to include, because we will include some of these changes that are happening right now, and they're changing just day to day.
Yeah,
So
she's gonna be
it's going
busy,
to
or
be
he's
an
gonna be
interesting
busy. Yeah,
rebuild.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, stay tuned then for future
Stay
coming
tuned
attractions.
indeed.
Tell
I
me
mean,
what. Go ahead.
it's worth looking at it because you can see some of the things that ArtReach normally does. So our website is www.artreachheals.org.
Okay.
And there are some pictures there of things that we've done recently, some of the theater, some of the music, some of the performing arts things.
Oh, beautiful. Well, you've done so much. Tell me a little bit about your logo. I see it behind you. It's a star with little lines that come off of it. Tell me about that.
So this logo, gosh, I think it's about 3 years old right now, was designed for us by Mark Larson, who's a friend of mine who is a graphic designer who has done a lot of album covers.
Oh, nice.
And he, a few years back, actually last year and 3 years ago, we were gifted by the Omega Institute of Holistic Studies space up there for a board retreat. And Mark came to our first board retreat. He just dropped in because he lives up near the place,
Mhm.
and he stayed. He dropped in to say hi, but he was intrigued by what the agency was doing. So he stayed and listened to several hours of our board retreat. And he had ideas about how we could redesign the logo. We'd been talking about it because there's been confusion. You know, ArtReach is the agency, but we have several programs, including the Second Step Players Theater Troupe, which is one of our programs, but is a better known name than
Mhm.
ArtReach. So we were trying to solve that dilemma,
Mhm.
and he designed this logo, and the star is also, it carries through on all the program logos
Nice.
now too, so there's a tie-in. So we're hoping people will come to understand that ArtReach is the organization, but we have a theater troupe, we have a music program, we have classes, we have a recreation and arts and culture appreciation program that's really meant to reduce social isolation
Mhm.
by taking people out together into the community.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, so to speak, that our members know about that the general public may not know about.
And speaking of the general public, how can we help you get the word out so people know more about you and know the good work that you do?
Well, I think, you know, we're doing a lot on our Facebook page right now.
Mhm.
So to keep track of ArtReach right now, our Facebook page, liking our Facebook page is a good thing to do. So it's ArtReach Heals, you know, facebook.com/ArtReach Heals. Um, and spreading the word, just, you know, that there is this arts organization that helps people who have these symptoms, depression and anxiety. We and honestly, we have served people for many years who whose symptoms are loud enough, so to speak, to be on disability, who receive services from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. That's our primary funder, our largest funder. But we also get support from community foundations and from donors, which is really important. And we're really hoping to have enough financial support from the community for us to be able to expand what we offer to people who are not just disabled by their symptoms, but who are living in the community with depression and anxiety, which is nearly everybody right now.
And just
It
helping people to just be more engaged and to have
Yes.
opportunities, I'm guessing.
These opportunities are valuable for every human being just because they're human. And we would like to be able to include everyone. You know, we don't want somebody to feel like they have to be disabled by a mental illness in order to come do stuff with us.
Well, and
We'd
I
like,
think, I don't think you have to look far to find somebody that's needing a little help, whether it's
yeah.
a bad day or a
Oh,
bad
it's true.
moment, whatever, right?
There are tons of people. It's a matter of having enough staff to supply that to
Right,
more people.
right.
And so, you know, we're stretched to capacity with the people that we have. And so if we when we fundraise enough that we actually can have more staff, then we can invite in more people from the community. And we really want to be able to do that.
Well, I think you'll have a lot of success with that. Are there other nonprofits that you coordinate your services with?
Yes, the other local mental health organizations like Sound Community Services, Reliance Health, which is also in Norwich, they're,
Mhm.
you know, dear to our hearts. The Southeastern Mental Health Authority. So these local places that provide mental health services, we share a lot of the same members. So
Nice.
that's where a lot of our referrals come from. Sometimes local therapists refer people to us, but we like to work together with the other agencies. And it's been an interesting overlap that a lot of where the collaboration has been able to happen is through the Southeastern Connecticut Cultural Coalition.
Hmm.
And all of those organizations that I just listed, well, Sound and Reliance Health, are also members of the Arts and Health Committee that that's run by the Cultural Coalition. So it's opened some new doors because they're not as well versed in the healing aspect and in the mental health aspect. So we bring that information to the party, and what they bring to us is the resources of the arts community and the Connecticut Office of the Arts. So it's been a very nice way for us to learn about each other and share resources between the arts and the health
Well,
sector.
it sounds great. And if there were a young person that I knew of or would be interested in internships or volunteering, are there opportunities like that as well?
Yes, and the internship opportunity is, obvious. We're about to have an intern now, and it's going to be a virtual internship again, so that is available. Um, and then, we hope to have some in-person volunteer stuff happening. I could certainly use a young person volunteer right now who's well versed in, like I was saying, some of the sound things. Somebody who's really good at YouTube.
A techie
um,
person, yeah.
yeah, we could really use some expertise in social media
Hmm.
and in technology.
Nice.
So yeah, and somebody like that could certainly work with me virtually.
Well, very good. And what kind of support do you need? You mentioned that, of course, monetary
Mhm.
contributions are nice. You want support fiscally. How else can we support you as members of the community?
Spreading the word, just
Just the
saying that we're
word,
there. And
like,
when we have live shows again, bring people.
come.
Come.
Yeah, buy tickets and come.
Come
Okay.
and experience it. And you know what? When we do have live shows, they are feel good events. The audience, my goal with those things is not just that the performers on the stage have a great time, but we want every single person in the audience to feel comfortable and accepted and to maybe experience something different than what they expected from somebody with a diagnosis. So we
Mhm.
do a lot of stigma busting too. There's still some negative perceptions about mental illness and what it is. And I think so many people, particularly with depression and anxiety, they don't understand that, yes, when you say mental illness, that means depression and anxiety too. I mean,
Right,
it's the same thing.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and everybody has those, I think, to some extent,
sure.
whether you're perseverating on something that happened previously or worried about something that's going to happen in the future. We all have those symptoms.
Bet.
Yeah. So, what is something that I didn't ask you that you'd like to tell me?
Oh gosh, let me think. Mm-mm. Oh, I don't know. Gosh, I don't usually go blank like that. I don't
Well,
know. We
that's
talked about
okay.
a lot of
We
things.
covered a lot of ground. We're, yeah, good little, good little team. So, and your experience just seems like you have shown through all of this and that you're being and doing what you were meant to be doing. So I really appreciate being able to have the opportunity. So thank you for listening and chatting with me. I guess I should ask you before we close though, is there anything that do you think that should be happening at the state level or at the national level as far as your type of program, outreach and reaching out to clients and people with needs, mental health needs that isn't happening that should be happening?
That should be happening. Well, this may answer a different question,
Okay.
but I do think that state government and and federal government should definitely be paying attention to the nonprofit mental health organizations. A lot of the mental health support in this country and in this state comes from nonprofits
Mm-hmm.
who who are businesses. Nonprofits are businesses,
Mm-hmm.
but we struggle to survive. So one thing people do not understand about the smaller nonprofits is that, say, an organization like ours that has 4 employees is held to exactly the same compliance standards as somebody who's got a 7-figure CEO that is a figurehead who has a secretary and an HR department. Even organizations that have 50 employees, they have a separate human resources department, a separate accounting department. Smaller organizations, we have to do all of the HR stuff, just like the bigger organizations, but it lands on me, right? So
Right.
we have to be jacks of all trades and have expertise in just an amazing amount of topics. And helping nonprofits, like having board members that are very skilled in these topics that you need specialized expertise in, like finances and
Mm-hmm.
human resources. That's a real big gift. To if you are an expert and you are, say, retiring or you have time on your hands, to offer that expertise to a nonprofit, that's a huge help. And that enables then the nonprofit staff who come in with expertise, like in our case, mental health training
Right.
and arts, to do mental health and arts instead of to do paperwork.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, that's a big help. So I would say considering board service for nonprofits,
Okay.
ArtReach,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
a really big help.
Okay.
Because especially the small nonprofits really need that because, again, we have to know the same things as the large organizations, but that organization has somebody who trained in that one topic, and
Right.
we don't get that. We can't hire an HR person. We need to hire somebody who's a musician and a writer and a mental health professional rolled into one.
Right. Right. Right.
Right?
And you're still, yeah, you just don't have that much as far as resources for the
Right.
actual products and the
Yeah.
things that you need to be able to create the product that you want to have for the creative
Exactly.
environment. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we are rich in creative talent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's a great thing. And then we struggle in some of the other areas. We
Your
we,
work
we do
ethic is
fine, but
amazing.
we work at it, and I would like to spend more of my time with people than with paper.
Of course. Of course. And you can't do that when you're trying to manage everything else, but you
No,
do,
you can't. No.
right. You do the best you can. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there are plus points to that. The plus point is that I know this organization inside and out, so the ball is not going to get dropped.
No. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so there are pros and cons to everything.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you do a great job. And thank you so much for the opportunity. Is there anything
Thank you.
else that you want to share that you would like the world to hear and know?
Oh, I'm just really grateful. Thank you so much for, spending time with me, for asking me to come talk about this and for being interested.
Oh my gosh, you guys are great. So I really love your shows. I love what you do. I love what you stand for. And if we had people who are as caring as your members and as the people who work, if everybody was like that, we'd be in a great spot. So
Oh, thank you, Kate.
keep up the good work and keep spreading that joyous understanding that you have for other people and that
Uh,
encouragement and enthusiasm. It's very contagious. It's a good thing. So
thank
keep
you.
going. Yeah.
Thanks.
All
I
right.
appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you so much.
You
Okay.
bet.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.